Sweet the whispers in your ear whenever Ember wanders near.
This is someone that we've never reacted to before, so I'm kind of curious how this is going to go. It's one of your suggestions. So this is something that one of you guys suggested. It's a video by Legendary Drops, who talks gaming, and I have no idea what this is about, but the title says this has never happened before. Probably a bit clickbaity, but I've seen other people react to him before. I'm a little curious, so you know what? Let's take a look.
You guys aren't going to believe this. Hell, even I barely believe this. We have a studio that, nearing the release of their next game, likely to make an announcement on that pretty soon, went out of their way to raise money and dissolve their publishing partnership so that they could release their game anywhere they wanted to without any exclusivity. Why? Because the players asked for it. That's it. That's as far as their decision.
Okay, the next person that asked me if I'm going to do more pads is getting banned. Okay? I hope I've been clear on this matter.
Decision making went with this. These guys literally said, oh, that's what the players want? Okay, that's exactly what we'll do. Like, how many times have we seen these developers come out and say that they're for the players, only for these guys to immediately go and do the exact opposite? How many times have we seen a developer bet on us? Never. Doesn't happen. And in this case, what Lords of the Fallen is doing, this has never happened before. Ever. This is an industry first. These guys have taken a complete turnaround. They have taken a leap in the opposite direction of the industry.
Wait, did I hear about wait. Hang on. Searching brain. I remember hearing something about Lords of the Fallen, but I can't remember what. Like, this was in the news fairly recently. I cannot remember. I can't. Okay. Obviously, he'll explain it, but I wanted to rack my brain real quick, and I came up with nothing.
In this case, where they're saying that they are putting the players first, and hell, in this case, they're putting the players before even themselves because they are assuming all of the risk for this. There's nobody left to catch them other than us. That's a lot of trust to give. And these guys have just kept at it. This is what they've been doing the entire time. Everything that they've changed with their old game and everything that they're doing with their next game is all of it's been based on player feedback. All of it's been based on talking to the community. And because of that, these guys have become public enemy number one for the media. This has been absolutely crazy.
They have.
Every single move they make.
Okay, I think there should probably be some clarity here. What I think he meant to say is this developer has become public enemy number one of the gaming journalist media, which, as we all know, are full of a bunch of cucks. Like, yeah, they become an enemy of the DEI bridge shills in the gaming journalist industry, which nobody cares about in the first place. In fact, them becoming public enemy number one for the gaming industry is probably going to be a net positive for them in the end, because the games journalists are going to talk shit about them, and they're going to go after them, and then actual gamers, actual game reviewers, YouTubers and streamers are going to look at this and go, fucking based. Let's see what they can cook up and give them support if they come up with something good. So honestly, having the entire gaming journalist industry turning on you, I see this as nothing but a win.
Every request they fill, the media has been out for blood since day one when it comes to these guys. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about how, for the first time ever, a studio is buying back its freedom for the players. I want to talk about how third-party exclusivity has become a poison in the games industry, how Lords of the Fallen has been putting players first, and, for everything that these guys do and all the attention that they get, they got to be doing something right. But before that, a word from today's sponsor, Displayed. I love these mana symbol ones. These are so cool. I should build a new deck.
It's kind of neat.
I shouldn't. Today's video is sponsored by Displate, and they are now celebrating their 13th birthday with a bigger discount than usual. I've been working with Displate a lot over the years, and that's
I'm going to be honest, I've been seriously considering taking a particular image that was made and turning it into a display, if I can. I've been thinking about it. I have. I think you guys might have an idea of which one of the images I'm talking about.
because I genuinely think that they are the easiest way to make a room feel like your own. Their metal posters are built around games, movies, and art that you actually care about, with over 2 million
That's nice.
designs available across licensed collections and independent artists. They're also incredibly easy to put up. Every single display comes with a magnet mounting kit, so you just stick a magnet to the wall, line the poster in place, and that's it. No drilling, no holes, no wall damage, or anything else. Once the magnet is up, you can just swap the designs whenever you want to. They also come in matte, gloss, and texture finishes. Textura is the really cool one because that's the one that actually adds a physical texture to it.
Oh, wow,
3D
that's kinda
contours,
cool.
and it adds different
I like
reflective
that.
effects that make the artwork really just pop off way more in person. So if you've been meaning to add something else to your setup, use my link in the description. Use code LEGENDARY at checkout, and from May 18th through May 24th, you'll get 31% off for 1 to 2 displays, 36% off for 3, and 41% off for 4 or more. So go to Displate.com and use my code LEGENDARY at checkout, or check the link in the description. Thank you to Displate for sponsoring today's video. If you guys have watched me for any length of time, then you guys probably already know exactly where I stand when it comes to exclusivity. I hate it. I think it's one of the weakest forms of competition possible. I think that it is absolutely spineless. It is just allowing these platforms to avoid competing on the quality of their services, of their hardware, of their storefronts, and instead, it's opting to gatekeep the audience by holding a bunch of games hostage that they otherwise
Okay, let me
might want to
fish.
buy. It is
Interestingly enough, him saying he hates exclusivity, for a while now, the gaming industry has not been exclusive. For probably, I want to say, the last 2 years, perhaps? Maybe the last 2 years? There is kind of no gaming exclusive. There is kind of been very, very little exclusivity. Just about every game that has come out in the last roughly 2 years or so has released on all platforms. And like, yeah, so like the exclusivity kind of went away, but yeah, well, Nintendo being the obvious standout because it's Nintendo. They've always been like, I precious. That's Nintendo's always been that way. But we are actually starting to see exclusivity come back. You know what? We're seeing, especially with Sony. Sony, this is the new Wolverine game that's going to be coming out that they were highlighting. This new Wolverine game is going to be exclusive to PlayStation. This game is not going to come out on like Steam or PC. And it damn sure isn't coming out on Xbox. It will be a PlayStation exclusive. So Sony is starting to bring back that exclusivity after not having it for some time.
wholly anti-consumer, and I think that it is absolutely toxic for the success of games themselves, as well as the future for the studios that make them. Now, I will submit that first-party exclusivity makes sense. Those are their games, they fund them, they make them, and it makes sense that they would use those games to support their own platforms. Fine. But with third-party studios, them making a game exclusive, it's just not good. It doesn't make any sense. I understand why these guys do it. They need funding. They want visibility. Sometimes it's the only way that these guys are able to exist in the first place. But you are still adding another layer of oversight, and you're also limiting your own potential success. And we have seen just how badly that can backfire. PlayStation kneecapped the shit out of Helldivers 2 when that game was setting the world on fire because of PlayStation logins and regional restrictions. Arrowhead made a game that everybody was in love with, and then Sony created a disaster around it. And that's kind of the problem here. When you're tied to a platform like that, their decisions become your reputation, even if you're not the one that's actually making them. But even when things aren't as dramatic as that, exclusivity is still putting a ceiling over your game. Only so many people are going to be able to access it, and only...
Well, Helldivers was not Helldivers was not, strictly speaking, exclusive. They did release it for PC on Steam. The requirement was just that you had to have so they did play a bit of fuck around though. Like they did, like when they first initially released it on Steam, they said, okay, you can get it on Steam, but we're only gonna release it in countries where you can where you have the wait, okay, I might get this backwards, but it started off, I think, with we'll release on Steam, but you have to log in with a PlayStation account. Then people got pissed off, so they dialed that back in and they said, okay, you don't need to log in with the PlayStation account. However, even through Steam, it will only be available in countries where you are able to have a PlayStation account at all. And so again, it's basically the same kind of like similarly limited. Now, I can't remember if they fully backed off of it entirely and they basically just said, fuck it, we're just going to release it worldwide. I can't remember if they actually finally just completely backed off that and just did a generalized release for everybody. But yeah, like Helldivers wasn't specifically like console gated per se. They did stall on getting it to Xbox. Like Xbox was the last group of gamers to be able to gain access to Helldivers. And so yeah, when they finally released it on Xbox, then it truly became non-console gated whatsoever. But it initially there was like it was kind of sort of not console gated, but in a way it was, and it was a whole unfuck around.
Exclusivity is still putting a ceiling over your game. Only so many people are going to be able to access it, and only so many people are going to be willing to go the extra mile that you are now forcing upon them, whether that means buying a new piece of hardware or using a storefront that they don't want to use. And I think that has helped to create this weird codependent relationship where these studios make exclusives because they need the money, and then the game goes out and it struggles to reach as many players as it could have, and suddenly they're even more dependent on those same platforms the next time around because they're still in the hole. I think the best.
And let's not forget, Sony is in the shit right now. And I think I think that may be why Sony is basically huddling up and going exclusive now, because Sony's desperate. They're absolutely desperate for money because they spent like $1 billion on Bungie. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on Marathon, and they didn't make any of that money back. They took a massive fucking loss from Bungie itself and Marathon. And so they are desperate for money. And I think that's why they're basically closing ranks and basically going with the exclusivity. Because yes, Concord was their project. You are correct. It was. So like Sony has been losing fuck tons of money with their releases lately. And so I think they're going back to exclusives because they are desperate for money. And if there's a generalized release, more and more people, especially with the Steam Cube about to be released, more and more people are going to PC gaming. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just saying. Like when the Steam Cube comes out, that is going to disincentivize a lot of gamers from getting Xbox or Sony. Because don't forget, and this is for one very big reason. Number one, Steam is putting out a console. So this is going to be a Steam console. Even though it's a Linux-based like OS and everything, it is still a console that you can hook up to your TV just like you would with, a Xbox or PlayStation. However, there's another factor in here. It's a good gaming system. It's going to be running at 60 frames per second. It's going to have really good graphics. You're going to be able to run it on high graphics. But there's one other factor that's even bigger. There's one thing that the GameCube will not do that you'll still need to do with Sony and PlayStation, or Sony and Xbox. Subscription. With the Steam Cube, you're going to have a wealth of AAA games and all the new AAA games that come out, but you're not going to have to pay a subscription just to play them online. You still need that with Sony. You still need that with Microsoft. To play any of their games online, you need to have a subscription. Now, Microsoft just did reduce the cost of their subscriptions, but you're still needing to pay monthly just to be able to play the game that you purchased online. And if it's an online only, if it's a live service game, you have to play it online. There's no offline option. And so the Steam Cube is going to be a much more viable alternative. Price-wise, it's going to be probably in roughly the same margin of the other two consoles. But again, you're going to be able to get the vast majority of the same games that can be played on PlayStation and Xbox, and you won't need to pay a subscription, especially to play it online. And I think that's going to be a factor. It is. Because Sony upped their subscription cost. I thought Xbox had lowered it, but maybe they upped it. Okay, so Xbox did lower the sub price slightly, but Sony just increased it. And all the gamers are looking at this and then looking at the Steam Cube going, I don't have to pay any subscription fee for that. And the cost to buy one of those is about the same as the PlayStation and the Xbox. And sure, I'm not going to get access to the exclusives, but who fucking cares? It's still a huge gaming library with more games coming out all the time. I'm going to get the Steam Cube. That's a factor. 100% it's a factor.
Two possible examples I could give are Square Enix and Remedy. Final Fantasy has spent years tied to PlayStation, and I think that has absolutely helped to drag that series further out of the wider conversation of video games, with both Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth just failing to meet expectations. And with Remedy and Alan Wake, well, that was locked to the Epic Game Store, and that game just didn't sell. It was a game that took them to the end of 2024 to finally start generating royalties for the studio because Epic still had to recoup their costs from it first. These are not bad games, and I think that's what makes it so frustrating. They are games that should have had every single possible chance to be able to find players, but instead they launched outside of the reach of players.
Well, what about those who can't afford a Steam Cube? The same people that can't afford a Steam Cube are not going to be able to afford a PlayStation and not going to be able to afford an Xbox. Now, if they've already got an Xbox or a PlayStation, then they'll have to be satisfied with that. But we're talking about gamers in general. The thing with gamers is they're always looking for the next thing. They're always looking for the next piece of hardware to up things. And the Steam controller has already gone like gangbusters, so there's already a significant amount of expectation for the Steam Cube. And let's face it, gamers these days will find the money to get that hot new piece of hardware. They will. PlayStation and Xbox have been out for what? 3 years now? Xbox One S and PlayStation 5 have been out for what? Has it been about 3 or 4 years now? Am I doing my math right? It's time. Like the average lifespan of a console is typically is it almost 5 years? Okay. So the average lifespan of Xbox One S released in 2020. Okay, so yeah, it's been like 6 years, almost 7 years. Okay, my math was off. So yeah, that's the average lifespan for a console. Typically speaking, gamers will hold on to a console for roughly 5 or 6 years. And then when the next thing comes out, they're buying that next thing. Well, guess what? The Steam Cube is this next thing. And so you're probably going to see a lot of gamers that they've had their Xboxes, they had their PlayStations for, 5, 6 years. They're getting ready to change up. Steam Cube is the new hotness. It's put out by a company that has shown that they appreciate their customers and appreciate their gamers. Yeah, they're going to switch over. They'll absolutely switch over. Like, I'm going to buy one. As soon as that launches, I'm 100% buying one. Absolutely. I can't wait. And I'm guessing I'm not alone. There's probably going to be a lot of people that cannot wait for it to come out so they can buy it.
Because these platforms were putting themselves first. So those games come out and they underperform, or at least they fall short of what they should have been. That studio now needs more money. The platform holder is still there with the check because they still want players to be baited in by some of these games. And the next exclusive deal starts looking a little bit more necessary than the last one. And it just keeps happening. And it's such a bad cycle. And it's not good for these studios. It's not what the
Yeah.
players are wanting, and it looks like Lords of the Fallen is going to be one of the first ones to break this cycle by putting the players first. Just a few days ago, Lords of the Fallen CEO Marek Tymiński wrote on Twitter, independent developer CI Games today announced that it has signed a separation agreement with Epic Games Publishing. As a result, CI Games has regained full open distribution rights for the PC version
Indeed,
of
this is
Lords
what
of
I
the
saw.
Fallen 2, moving away from the PC exclusive publishing arrangement signed in June of 2024. Lords of the Fallen
Nice.
2 remains scheduled to launch later this year on PC via Epic Game Store and other PC storefronts, as well as PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. CI Games will self-publish the title across all platforms, while Plaion continues to be the global physical distribution partner. This has never happened before, at least not like this. An independent studio raising money, turning around and dissolving their publishing agreement just so they can get out of what would have been permanent exclusivity. Honestly, man, this is just crazy, especially for how much money was likely invested into these guys. And all of this was done based on player feedback. It's what their players wanted. And I mean this with sincerity. Regardless of how good Lords of the Fallen 2 ends up, if this game had stayed locked to Epic, it was going to fail. PC players have chosen Steam.
Probably,
that fight is over. Epic cannot pull them away, even when they're giving away free games. I mean, look at their numbers. Over the past 5 years, they've more than doubled their user count, but they've only increased third-party revenue by 1.6%. People log in, they take a free game, and then they leave. Hell, in most cases, they go buy that exact same game on Steam later because that's where they actually want to play it.
Well, that and there's of course the meme. Exactly, that's where I was going. There's of course the meme that the Epic launcher is fucking terrible. Nobody likes playing games on Epic because the Epic launcher constantly crashes and fails. So, like, yeah.
If we then add to this Newzoo finding out that PC is set to outgrow all revenue of all consoles by 2028, Capcom saying that 55% of their players are on PC, and so many major platform releases finding most of their success on PC. This is not some niche side of the market anymore. This is where the players are. This is where the money's at. And the overwhelming majority of these players are on Steam. If you're not putting that game in front of those players, you are choosing to fail.
And this also brings another thing is, so a couple of you guys mentioned this in chat already. I think Microsoft is going to, I think that they're going to dissolve their hardware before too long. I do think that they might, like, possibly. This is a stretch. I'm freely admitting this is a stretch. Okay? But the feeling I get in the gaming industry right now is that Xbox is not going to be Xbox anymore in a couple years. I think it's either going to go the route of being a cloud-only service, or they're going to go to the PC market and basically focus on the Xbox app on PCs. I do think that at this point, Xbox, the hardware is sort of dying. It is. They've been pushing the xCloud gaming service hard. They've also been pushing, for those of you with PCs, especially gaming PCs, you may have noticed that there have been, in the past couple months, there's sort of been a little thing on Windows PCs where they're like, hey, check out the Xbox gaming app. They're trying to push the Xbox gaming app on PC. And it makes me think that they are getting ready to transition away from gaming hardware and focus strictly on gaming software. They'll still do controllers, but they're not. I think they are trying to move away from consoles. There's even been talk about that they're working on an update for Windows 11 that is supposedly going to really pare things down and streamline the OS to run better specifically for gaming. Okay, that was one of the big things that there was talk about with Windows 11, is that there's going to be an update coming that pares down the software, that streamlines it and makes it run smoother, and they specifically cite gaming. So I think that is, at least for Microsoft, I think that is the way they're going to go. They're gonna focus on if they're gonna maintain hardware, it's gonna transition to cloud gaming only, and they're absolutely gonna be pushing gaming on PC through the Xbox app. So that's my feeling. Now Sony, I don't think Sony's gonna do that. I think Sony's gonna be holding on to their hardware for as long as humanly possible. But for Microsoft, we may only be about 5 to 7 years away from like the next Xbox console. I don't know if it's going to be the last one or not. I know the next Xbox console that comes out, there is going to be a focus on cloud gaming. We could be seeing the conclusion of the Xbox hardware in its entirety. And to that end, I could see Microsoft starting to push out PCs that are Xbox branded. I could see Microsoft trying to get into the PC market where they will be making gaming PCs specifically targeting Xbox, not through like Asus, not through like, not like Asus, not like Acer, not like HP, where like, they have their own gaming computers. I'm talking about actual Microsoft branded gaming PCs where it is loaded with Xbox stuff. I could see them going that route. Yeah, so like similar tech, like kind of sort of seeing people like it'll actually be a Windows PC, but it will be absolutely loaded with Xbox related stuff. Yeah, like Xbox, like like the case is like what the case looks like an Xbox with like either vinyl or the design of the case makes it look like an Xbox. Yeah, I could see them going that route, and in the not too distant future either.
TI Games knew that. They could see that. It's impossible not to see it at this point. But they also saw the players telling them, and the developers listened to it. And they've seen that stuff ever since this game was revealed. And these guys actually went out and they acted on it. All I have to say is that these guys aren't bullshitting. They are player first, even when that means taking the risk onto themselves. And don't get it twisted. Lords of the Fallen 2 is absolutely going to find more players because of this. But CI Games has basically handed back the safety net that exclusivity deal gave them. They chose to self-publish this game, and now the only thing that's left to catch these guys is the players. This is a wild leap of faith that is something that very few studios in this industry try anymore. Most AA or even independent studios still have some kind of major backing from publishing or marketing partnerships with some of these other major publishers. But these guys are going in raw because they believe in the game and they believe that the audience that they have built around them is going to be there for them when this game goes out. It's really easy to call yourself player first when you don't have anything on the line. It's a completely different story when you're willing to risk it all, when you're willing to give up your own security because your players are telling you that they want to play the game somewhere else. And I was one of them. I've had many conversations with their CEO, and while they were fully aware of what the players were asking for, what the players wanted, and what's been going on in the games industry, I did everything I possibly could to try to push things in this direction. I tried to share any relevant data that I could, any market trends, say anything I possibly could, because I wanted to help these guys. I really did. There's a fire truck coming by right now. But I really felt like these guys are genuine. I think that they want to put the players first, and that's why I wanted to help them, and they were appreciative in me doing so. And while I can talk their ear off, these are the guys that took action. They're the ones that did this. They're the ones that actually put players first, and that matters a hell of a lot more than anything that I can say. I'll tell you that. I'd seen a viewer of mine in a comment section that was talking about how this is not a player-first move. They're just doing this for money, but it's just for profit.
Yes. Because guess what? By making it player first, that can generate more profit. And guess what? In the end, people always get this twisted. In the end, these are companies. They are in the business of making money. Okay? Even for companies that are player first, player oriented, they want to make the players happy. They're making their customers happy. Why? Because they want to make money. That's why they're making this game in the first place. If they were making the game just for fun, then they wouldn't be charging for it. Then there would not be any of this risk. This is, in the end, it is a company whose sole purpose in life is to make money. That doesn't make them bad, and they can absolutely still be player first by making a good product that their customers will enjoy. They can still be customer oriented. They can still be player oriented by making games that players will enjoy and that players will want to buy, therefore giving the company money so the company can make a profit, so it can pay its employees, and then it can actually move on to more games that can be focused on the players, that they can make good and enjoyable, that players will purchase, and maybe even more players will purchase once word gets around like, hey, this company is making great games. They are very player oriented, and more people will be willing to give up their money to give to this company so this company can make a profit to make more games. Jerry, you pick up what I'm putting down here. It is a cycle, but it's a perfectly normal business cycle. This is, it's, there's absolutely nothing bad about a gaming company making a game to make money, because that's why they're doing it in the first place. And anybody that tries to pull some like fee bullshit, like, oh, they're just in it for the money, no shit, because that's how business works. You don't like it, fuckity bye. Then obviously you're not living in reality. Go knit.
Brother, have you been watching the videos? I try to approach all of this from both the perspective, not only a businessman, but also a customer, and try to make these developers or some of these studios realize that those two things are not mutually exclusive. Making the players happy,
yes,
doing things for the players, and making more money is supposed to happen at the exact same time. If you make the thing that people are asking for and you deliver it where they want it, they're going to show up for it.
Hence why the companies that make bullshit DEI games or self-insert games fail. It's why Marathon failed. It's why Mixtape failed. It's why Concord failed. It's why Highgarb failed. Because they made the game for themselves, not for their paying customers. And this is true for literally every fucking business. Every fucking business that basically says, we're making something for non-paying customers will fail. Because they're not actually worried. They're not actually trying to sell to the paying customers. That's why, going off topic with the gaming industry and just going to industry in general, why do you think we're seeing so many companies where they bow to basically social demand ends up failing? Because the companies that bow to these screeching retards that say, you're not DEI enough, you're not woke enough, we don't like this, you have to change. And when these companies go, okay, we'll bend the knee, what happens? They fail. Why? Because they capitulated to non-paying customers. When companies capitulate to paying customers, when paying customers say, listen, this is what we want from you, we are going to give you money to do this, and the company goes, cool, we will do this. And then those people, those individuals that complain, for lack of a better term, receive, they make the change that these people want. Guess what happens? They give them money. When companies focus on their paying customers and ignore the screeching non-paying retards, you know what comes? Success. And we see it all the time with companies that literally do ignore the screeching retards. We see it in Uwu Market, we see it in Gamersubs, we're seeing it in gaming, in other gaming companies where they, like with Stellar Blade, like the devs for Stellar Blade, where people were screeching, oh, you made her too sexy, that's not how a real woman looks like, and the company just went, I don't fucking care. Guess what happened? They made a fuck ton of money. Angel Sword, yeah, Leaflet's company. She made it for gamers. She made it for TTRPGers. That was her focus. Is we're gonna, and not to mention, I mean, it's the fucking thing's free anyway. She did it for literally the love of the game. And with the extra stuff, with the accessory stuff, you got the profits because she made something for the players. It's honestly staggering how many companies cannot figure out this basic fucking metric of, if you cater to the people that are going to give you money, you will make money to do more things, to do the next big thing, to do the next passion project. As long as you are making your paying customers happy, everybody wins. It seems like such a very simple metric, yet in modern day, so many companies care more about being on the side of righteousness than doing the most basic thing that's taught day one in business school. You are in this to make money, not friends.
That's the whole point. These guys are taking a massive risk. I'm not going to deny that. But if this game delivers, it's going to be a massive success for them. And it doesn't have to blow the doors off. It just has to be more successful than the last game they made. And I don't really think that's going to be that hard for these guys, especially with it being on multiple platforms and also with the reputation that they've given themselves. But that reputation has come with a cost, because if this game succeeds, it's going to piss off a lot of journalists.
Who cares? I see that as only a positive, and so does literally every gamer out there. Okay? Pissing off gaming journalists should be a goal in this day and age. Literally, I'm not meaning, I'm not doing a bit, I'm not joking. Pissing off games journalists should be the goal of gaming companies right now, of game developers. When they're making a game, and the question of, is this going to piss off the gaming journalists? The answer should always be yes. Every single time. Because if you piss off the game journalists, you're going to be making the customer happy. It's honestly, it's that simple. It's honestly that simple. So I see I see this company pissing off the gaming journalists as nothing but a net positive, because by doing that, what's going to happen is you're going to have so many actual gamers that are content creators with big voices lauding this game, lauding the developer as being fucking based. And you're going to get far greater publicity from gamer content creators than you will from journalists. It's like you get people like, and I know some of you are not going to agree with all these names here, but you get like Angry Joe, you get Drinker, you get Nerdrotic, you get Geeks and Gamers, you get everyone in that sphere. It's like those are really the only gaming the only like gaming content creators that I can think about off the top of my head. But like you get them saying this is a great game, that is far better promotion than you will ever get from a gaming journalist. Because actual gamers don't listen to gaming journalists. Actual gamers consider gaming journalists fucking hacks that can't even pass the Cuphead tutorial. So yeah, pissing games journalists off should be the goal, not a hindrance. And Internet Zen Master, thank you for the sub.
These guys are going to be so mad because they've had it out for these guys since the very beginning. While Lords of the Fallen has definitely been celebrated by its players for everything that they've done, for everything they did with their old game and now what they're doing with their new game, every step of the way, the media has been hounding these guys. And if this game finds success,
let them.
The media is not going to be happy.
Now,
I think a critical piece of content
let them mold and cope and seethe. It'll be fantastic fucking entertainment.
Text here as to why Lords of the Fallen and CI Games have become somewhat of an enemy to some of the media and also a dark horse in this industry is because, well, these guys were failures. They've tried to make this franchise work twice. They stumbled both times, and they really only started to find real success when they stopped keeping the audience at arm's length and they started wading into some conversations that most developers would probably never touch. The original Lords of the Fallen that released in 2014 was just not a good game. And then almost a decade later, CI Games tried it again with a completely different game under the exact same name, and that one stumbled too. It was far more ambitious. I think it had a lot more going for it, but it launched rough, and the players made it very, very clear. And I think that failure changed them. They were forged through fire in a lot of cases because they didn't just patch that game with the obvious stuff and just move on from it. They stuck with it. And for the next 2 years, these guys just kept taking in feedback, kept talking to the players, and kept pushing updates. They fixed issues that most studios would have probably ignored in most cases. They gave the co-op a huge uplift. They eventually pushed this game to its 2.0 release, where the entire conversation around this game started to change. They even made it where you could play with your friends for free, just like Split Fiction, and it worked. After 3 years, the game had finally reached profitability, selling 2.5 million copies and still counting. That's really where this
Nice.
player first mentality came from. On the second attempt, they finally started just listening to the players, and the players were the ones that saved them. After that, I think they just started looking at feedback in an entirely different light. They saw this divide that was growing between the media and the industry and the audience, and they were starting to wonder who is actually right in this discussion. Is it the players? Is it the media? Is any of this actually real? And, I take the time to call out what I view as media bias on this channel. I talk about games that I don't think get treated fairly, and I try to contrast the expectations of the audience with the expectations of critics. But for all of the games that I have covered on this channel, I do not think there is a single one that is more controversial to the media than Lords of the Fallen. CI Games has been under barrage since the minute that they changed their core values to players first. And I know a lot of that is coming down to Marek Tominsky himself, the CEO of the company. And look, I do think that the guy can get lost in the sauce of the culture war discourse sometimes. Even I have told him that it might be worth easing off the gas a little bit and just letting the game speak for itself and, kind of giving players something to look forward to. But at the end of the day, these guys are just talking to an audience that most of this industry would rather ignore. They're asking questions that most developers won't ask out loud. They're polling their players directly on Twitter, and they are changing their games based on those answers. I think the media outrage had really...
Oh, that's who that guy is.
They are changing their games
I distinctly remember this poll on Twitter. In a medieval fantasy action RPG, what do you prefer to choose between? By type A or B, male or female? I distinctly remember this poll. Okay, so that was him asking that. Okay.
On those answers. I think the media outrage had really started with their investor call last year when they were asked about DEI in gaming, and CI Games had basically said that they had watched a lot of high-profile releases underperform after leaning too hard into social or political messaging, and their priority going forward was going to be enjoyment and commercial success. Something that is not all that controversial, at least in my...
Like, you would think it's so simple. That's the crazy part. Like, this is such a simple fucking concept. And it is staggering how many gaming studios can't figure this out. Like, to you and I, to you guys and me, this is a very simple metric. Make a game for the player, not for the activist. Don't inject sociological or political ideologies into your game. Just make the game fucking fun. We've been saying it for years. It's so simple, and yet so many developers can't figure it out. At least in the AAA studio space, they can't figure it out. In the indie space, they figured this out a long fucking time ago, and that's why the indies are going like gangbusters. It's why the indie studios are basically starting to beat out the AAA studios, because they are actually making games that are fun, that people will enjoy, and not message.
My eyes, but apparently it was to the media because these guys descended upon these dudes immediately with headlines like DEI boogeyman and anti-DEI marketing. But I think PC Gamer's response kind of gave the game away here because these guys are pointing out how thousands of games fail every single year, and that's totally...
Wait. Concord and Dustborn are commonly held up as examples of such. You mean Concord and Highborn, don't you? But the reality is, well, Dustborn is in there. But the reality is they're just two of literally thousands of games, 19,000 new games on Steam alone in 2024 that failed to find an audience over the past year. Okay? And in the case of Concord, it arguably just wasn't a great game. We gave it a 45% our review, and not because we didn't think the cast was white enough. Yeah, it was a shit game. Exactly. Because they made a shit game. If you make a fun game, players will buy it. Simple metric.
Not the reason that a game like Concord failed, as if everybody is claiming that every single game has flopped for the exact same reason. Nobody is saying that social messaging is the only reason a game can fail. They are saying that it's just another way to be able to alienate players, and they don't think it's worth including. And that's really just a conversation that not a lot of people want to have honestly anymore. CI Games kept having that conversation, and that's what made these guys a target. Now, not long ago, Lords of the Fallen revealed concept art for female armors for their upcoming game, something that was based on community feedback. Players had asked for more attractive female characters in RPGs, and
I like it.
Well, they did this all in collaboration with a friend of the channel, the background NPC. She got to give feedback on the design, she watched the artist change these things in real time, and then she shared her experience in a sponsored video, and within a couple of hours, media outlets were already crashing out. Each article.
No. Hey, I knew it. I knew it. I fucking knew it. Yeah. Oh, you're having sexy women in the game. You're objectifying women. And and how many of them are going to, every single one of these fucking hacks, every single one of them is going to ignore the fact that a woman was part of the design team. Yeah, the armor looks great. I think it looks amazing. But every single one of these LARPers pretending to be journalists is going to ignore the fact that there was a woman that had a major hand in designing the armor. They're gonna just basically fall back on the tired ass tropes of, oh, it's so sexist. You're going for the male gaze. Yeah, they're gonna desperately push the message, and just like with Stellar Blade, because we saw this in Stellar Blade when they were basically saying, oh, Eve is Eve's just a big titty woman, and she's like, no woman could possibly look like her. You're just trying to draw the male gaze. You're objectifying women. And every single one of them ignored the fact that Eve, the design of Eve, was taken from the body scan of a real woman. That the entire design, like the shape design of Eve, was taken from a real woman that had a body type exactly like Eve, because they did a full body scan of her. The journalists will ignore that. Why? Because they're all paid DEI shills. Okay? Their only job is to spread the message. It's why gamers don't listen to them. It's why gamers don't care. It's why they look to game journos as a means to indicate what not to buy. That is what game journalists are now. They are an indicator of what not to buy and what game you absolutely should buy. Look at Mixtape. Look at what the scores were for
Ember,
Mixtape.
they would tell her she has internalized misogyny and ignore her words.
Oh, they probably say a lot more than that. Actually, I would say they probably would just ignore that she was even a part of it in the first place and just say, oh, all of the dads are misogynist. And just ignore the fact that a woman was a key role in her, a key role in it that would cause her cancer. Oh, God. I had meant to talk about that earlier. I still might. But yeah, it's fucking stupid. Like, honestly, the game journalist industry needs to fade away and die. The entire games journalist industry needs to just go away. And thankfully, I think it's starting to. I saw something about how games journals at one particular publication will no longer be paid per article. That the games journals at this, I saw this on Science Bros, that apparently games journals for one particular publication will now be paid by click. So they'll only receive money per 1,000 clicks. So if their article does not get clicks, they don't get paid, which is a double-edged sword, because it means that journos are going to basically jump ship because they're not going to want to work for that kind of money. But at the same time, it's going to cause journos that are willing to work for that kind of pay scale to basically become more extreme and to rage bait the shit out of their articles. So yeah, which again, that's gonna kill that's gonna kill the publication anyway, because the moment people figure out, oh, all they do is just rage bait, they're not gonna click on it in the first place, and they'll just fuck off. So it's still gonna do work in basically destroying the games journalist industry, which I think that industry needs to go away like yesterday. Like that, like games journalists should not be a thing anymore. They should absolutely go away. The only games journalists worth of salt are basically the content creators. Those are the only trustworthy games journalists, because they'll actually play the games and they're not beholden to any corporation. They're beholden to themselves, and that's it. And right now, you're not going to get a better metric of honesty when it comes to, whether or not a game is good.
was seething more than the last, and almost none of them made any real arguments against the designs themselves. Most of it was just ad hominem more than anything else. If anything, most of the criticism was about the art style, which, okay, this is concept art, not
Maybe concept art, but I love it. I love that. Those look amazing. I especially like this one. And now that I'm not thrilled about the shoulder pads, but the rest of the outfit on this one looks fantastic. I love it.
final in-game characters, so I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Outside of that, they just kind of floated baseless assumptions about the characters looking AI generated, or they just flat out dismissed the background NPC's involvement because it was a sponsored video and she was paid, as if that somehow explains her positive spin. These guys didn't even take the 5 seconds to do the most basic research and realize that she effectively launched this channel off of making videos where she was criticizing how women are designed and portrayed in video games. This stuff is just embarrassing to me. Then you had...
Exactly. Again, just proving that whatever they say, the opposite is true.
Jade King of The Gamer, who argued that hot characters in games don't actually matter, that scantily clad women don't actually help to sell games, and that's totally wrong. And these are just complaints that are coming from a very small but loud corner of the internet, while also using...
Oh, you mean like the quote-unquote small but loud screeching SJRs that say you have to be on the right side of history or we will basically brigade you on social media and bully to you until you change? You mean that kind of small yet loud corner of the internet? Yeah, never bend the knee, chat. When the screeching, reeing SJRs come at you, don't bend the knee because they don't matter and they never will.
Baldur's Gate 3 as proof of diverse and inclusive success. Yes, Baldur's Gate 3, famously known for its complete lack of conventionally attractive characters. What are we talking about? Actually, after looking at the armor sets, I just don't see the moral panic here. Most of these designs are tamer than what you would see in Marvel Rivals, and that game's rated T for teen. None of this outrage made any sense, which is why I think that this outrage was never even about the designs. I think it was about the people involved. They don't like CI games. They don't like the audience that CI games is willing to engage with, and they saw the background NPC as a woman, as a small creator, and someone that they could probably put some pressure on without getting much pushback.
What they don't like is that there's a developer now that can't be bullied into doing what the woke mind virus wants them to do. That's what they don't like. Because in the gaming space, the game journals are basically the mouthpiece of the DEI mind virus. They hate the fact, they are molding over the fact that this developer, that CI Games, cannot be influenced by them. And what they're doing is they're witnessing the loss of their power over the games industry, and they're terrified of it. They're absolutely terrified of the fact that they're losing power and influence over the gaming industry. Because when they lose power and industry in the gaming space, they serve no purpose in their minds. If they cannot influence games the way they think they should be influenced, and instead the developers make what their customers want, they have no purpose anymore. And it's kind of like, the people on social media where they are desperate for clout and clicks. Game journals are the same thing. They are desperate for clout and clicks, not only because the clicks get them money when they read the articles, but they also can have the clout to try and basically force game developers to change things the way that they think that they should be changed. But the freaking lonely ass, the lonely metrosexual, non-binary loves to basically do things with horses, Cherno, that on the weekends is a furry that wants to include all of their dysfunction and mental disorders into the game because that's what modern gaming demands, right? And they hate the fact that game devs like CI took one look at them and said, we don't fucking care. The game's not for you. Fuckity bye. And the games journalists hate it. They realize CI doesn't mind because game journals don't matter. And boy, do they hate that.
More than anything, I think that they think that Lords of the Fallen 2 is an easy I told you so. This smaller franchise with a messy history and a sequel that they likely thought was doomed because of Epic exclusivity and a studio that was already saying things that they hated. So they took their shot early because they were trying to make an example out of them. And I think that's what all of this comes down to. These outlets have no problem celebrating representation and inclusivity when it comes to audiences that they approve of. When they have
Exactly.
games that are reflecting certain values or identities or politics, and nobody is questioning whether or not any of that is sincere
Yep.
or it's pandering or it's just another way to sell a product or whether or not people even want that or it even serves the games to begin with. But when a studio openly serves a different audience, that tone changes immediately. Now it's desperation. Now it's embarrassing. Now everybody is acting like fantasy armor for women in a video game is some moral emergency that they all need to panic over. This is why CI Games has made themselves a target. They have been pretty blunt about what kind of game they are making and what kind of audience they want to serve. Players who want fantasy to look like fantasy, players that don't want a character to look like it was designed and filtered through HR, players that don't want to feel like they're being lectured when they sit down to play a game. And whether or not you like those people, whether or not you like that audience or these developers, they exist. These guys are buying games. These guys have their own preferences. CI Games is not excluding anybody by making a game that is outside of that conversation. Anyone can buy it. Anybody can still play it. But to certain outlets, refusing to participate is treated like an act of hostility. Not adding messaging is now the messaging. And that is exactly why the studio is just constantly being dragged into controversy for doing something that honestly I think should be painfully normal. Just asking players what they want and then making what they asked for. I just think it's a really weird position to take, saying that none of this stuff is necessary in games. It's not needed for games, when Lords of the Fallen has a proven track record of talking to their audience, polling their audience, engaging with them directly, constantly. You're seeing like Ryan Hill and a couple of other people that are over there just constantly talking to people on Twitter and on Discord or wherever else. Like, these guys have receipts. They have paper showing you. They're talking to their audience. That's where this is coming from. They have an audience. That's who they're serving. It's as simple as that. It's a transaction. It's not that much more complicated than that, I promise you. And what is with this constant need to deny reality? That's the part.
I can answer that. Because these people hate reality. That's it exactly. They reject reality and substitute their own because they are mentally diseased. They are mentally unwell. They hate the fact that in reality, they are not the special snowflakes that they like to purport themselves to be. That's why. Because in reality, they know that they are nothing. They know that they are just another face in the crowd, another cog in the machine. They are not special in any way, that most of them are probably losers, like lonely losers that will never get fucked. And they hate it, and so they and screech online and try to claim enlightenment. And basically, they push the message and they get sucked into the cult of the message. And because they've been promised, you don't have to live in this reality. We're going to change reality to fit the way we think it should be. And that's why they cannot accept that's why they cannot accept reality of games are business. You make games for your customers like the game and they give you money, and that's how you make money. They don't like that because they live off fee-fees. They don't use their brains because their brains are broken. That's it. And that's why they continue to fail. That's why all of the game developers that basically follow the DEI virus and try to cater to people that refuse to live in reality and are not paying customers, why they continue to fail over and over and over and over again. The game developers that do live in reality, that do listen to the customers, that do make products specifically for their paying customers, this is why they succeed. DI Games is basically going the route of the indie studio. And what have I been saying about the indie studios for years? This is the time for those indie studios to rise. People are done with the AAA studios. They're done with all of the big gaming developers throwing messaging into everything, insulting their player base, telling their paying customers, "Oh, this game's not for you. We don't want you to play this game. We hate you. We don't want you to play this game. We want this mythical modern audience that does not exist to give us pretend money that does not exist because we want to live on the quote right side of history." The indie studios make games because they love to make games. They want to make games that are fun to play, and they succeed. DI Games just entered into that arena as an indie studio. They already have a leg up on literally every AAA studio in the industry. We're seeing it. We're seeing it right now. For the last 2 years, the indie studios are on the rise, and they are eating the AAA studios' lunch and dinner and breakfast. Because gamers are voting with their wallets. And guess who they're voting for?
That bothers me the most. You can't tell people that there's no elephant in the room when they can see it. Come on, man. Like, you can't be mad at Lords of the Fallen for calling some of this stuff out and saying that they're going in the opposite direction when it is a very observable pattern that people have seen in a lot of games, especially in AAA games, and people have been calling it out. Instead, what you should do is just own it. Say, I want every female character or every character in games to look like Gumby because that makes the space feel safer. That's what I'm more comfortable with. And it pushes whatever my worldview is. Cool. Good for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have to support it. That doesn't necessarily mean that
No, it means they'll fail. The ones that say, I don't want sexy women in there because I'm not comfortable and I want to make all my characters look dog ugly because that makes me feel comfortable. Cool. You do that, you'll fail, and you're going to be out of the industry. It's a great equalizer. The ones that say, I want to make ugly women because I'm ugly and I want to insert myself in the game and I want to try and pretend like I'm actually beautiful when in reality I'm ugly and I know I'm ugly and I want to try and convince the general public that ugly is beautiful because I think I'm some kind of master hypnosis expert. You go right ahead. You will fail abysmally. You're going to lose everything and you'll be out of the gaming industry. Fucking Darwinism Gaming Edition. Yeah, exactly. The expression sex sells exists for a fucking reason. It has existed for decades for a reason. Because it works.
I have to buy it, and that it also doesn't mean that I'm not going to criticize it because it's not something that I want. So I'm still going to try to push that conversation because there are things that I want. I like attractive women in video games. Make a martyr out of me. Like, it's so stupid. You know, I've largely fallen off the train of
I like sexy big titty women in games. Come at me, internet. Please. I'm kind of on a roll lately, so please come at me.
no social messaging in video games. And it's mostly just because, like, people are allowed to do whatever they want. Make whatever game that you want. That used to be the kind of message that we had in the games industry, and then it kind of changed because of how divisive things have become. But it's like, do whatever you want, make whatever you want. It just doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be criticized, and it also doesn't mean that it's going to be commercially viable. That's a choice that you have to make, and I think that choice kind of goes in either direction, and I think that one direction, at least right now, seems like it's going to be a little bit more profitable, and it looks like the direction that Lords of the Fallen is chasing right now. But all I can say is that, you know, given all of this, and just given everything that these guys have done, they really are putting the players first. They're genuinely listening to people in a way that I think we rarely see in the games industry anymore. I think that there's different kinds of talent in the games industry. You have some people that are just naturally gifted and they just know what players want. They probably because they want it themselves in some cases. And it just so happens that perfectly lines up with exactly what people are looking for in a moment. And then you have people that just don't necessarily have that talent. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're not talented. It just means that you have to go out there and find out what people want. And that's what these guys have been doing.
Either that or either go out there and find what people want, or look with someone that does know what people want and follow their lead.
Doing. Whether that's fixing their last game, whether that's the changes that they're making with this game, whether that's them getting rid of exclusivity, these guys are actively listening, and they are taking some really big swings and some really big risks in trying to connect with the audience the best that they can. And I think it's one of the coolest things that I've seen. That's it. That's all I got. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, comment down below. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm going on a trip. I'm going to see family after this. So stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Catch you in the next one. Peace.
Family.
Nice. Hopefully, you know what? Hopefully, if I can get the Steam Cube by the time that launches, maybe I'll play that game on stream. When I can finally get the Steam Cube, I think there's gonna be so many games that I'm gonna be able to play on stream. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah, but it's good to see more game studios. We're seeing the turn. We're seeing the turn where studios are starting to realize if they cater to their gamers, if they cater to their paying customers, that equals success. It will be the great equalizer, and I can't wait for it.
Ember burns